You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely. Good morning. Hello and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. It is May 11th. Oh my goodness, it's May 11th, 2023. And we are here live from the Legacy420.com news desk on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. We are on Boxcast, which comes, of course, to you through Roku and Fire Stick TV. Yeah, so you can catch us on all those. Good morning, Al.
Good morning, Cindy. Good morning. Sometimes it's just easier to go say paceradio.net and cbgtv.com.
Yeah, it is.
Because the list is long. There's a lot of places where the broadcast goes out to, but yeah.
It's kind of everywhere. We're everywhere. Everywhere you think that we could be, we're there and then some.
Oh, yeah, we're people everywhere advocating cannabis education.
Yep.
That's what it works out to, right? Because we're getting everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just like Mike says in that commercial. They're not, Yeah, that's right.
Glenn is not with us again this week. He is having like crazy internet issues, but he will be back on Canadian land soon. And then, and then we won't have any more issues and Glenn will be back full time.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you know this, Cindy, but he's coming home. He's coming home to you. He's not coming home to me. He's not headed to Ontario. He's headed back to New Brunswick.
Yep. Yeah. He's been looking in New Brunswick and considering spaces in Nova Scotia. But he's coming back to the Atlantic provinces. He's going to be back in the same time zone as me. And it'll be pretty awesome.
I know that his wife Cindy posted that they chose New Brunswick because no matter where they were, they always felt that they were in a small town atmosphere. Everybody knows everybody gets along, so on and so forth.
Yep.
So yeah, they really liked it there. So they're back.
Yeah.
They'll be back. Couple weeks.
Yep, they come back at the beginning of June. So we will be back to having Glenn on the show regularly without a whole bunch of lag. It'll be beautiful.
Yeah, let's hope mine's improved. This is it's actually the first broadcast that I'm under a new provider, so hopefully everything goes good here as well. Keep the fingers crossed.
Okay, well, we might as well head to the first story. Our first story is coming to us from CTV News, and Health Canada says illegal copycat cannabis products, as seen here, can cause serious harm to children.
That's right. They say that Health Canada has issued a public advisory about illegal copycat, warning parents that they can cause serious harm to children if accidentally consumed. These illegal products include cereal and snack foods such as chips, cheese puffs, cookies, chocolate bars, and a variety of popular candies in colorful packaging that contains high amounts of THC that increase the risk of experiencing adverse effects of poisoning, Health Canada said in an advisory issued on Wednesday.
Yeah. Parents and children may not be able to recognize these products as anything other than their favorite brands of candy or snack foods because the THC, if we go back up here for a second, is so small and down in the corner. Yeah. Health Canada's website lists several copycat cannabis products with products that mimic familiar snack brands such as Starburst, Doritos, and Oreos.
Yeah, I had some Doritos, those Doritos, and I wasn't impressed.
Okay.
No. Excuse me. Yeah. Now, according to the health agency, several cases of children being hospitalized, particularly after consuming products that are illegal and unregulated have been reported. The health agency warns that accidental ingestion of cannabis puts children, young people, and pets at the risk of serious harm.
Yeah, Health Canada stated that hospitals have seen an increase in visits to the emergency room, and poison centers have seen an increase in calls about children eating unregulated cannabis edibles. And honestly, I've just got to state this: unregulated or regulated, it's going to have the same effect. So really, just children eating cannabis edibles.
Cannabis, exactly. I look at it, whether they're illegal or legal, they're still going to affect the kid
The same way.
Yeah.
Poisonings can be life-threatening, sometimes resulting in a coma, being put on a ventilator, or in rare cases, even death. The notice from Health Canada reads.
Wow, I haven't heard of anybody along that lines, but
nope.
Yep. Although, as they say, although no fatal cases have been reported in Canada, the government says it is aware of cases of other parts of the world where children have died from poisoning. Wow, that's interesting. Illegal cannabis products packaging sometimes looks like popular brands of candies or other snacks. However, legal cannabis products are in plain packaging to reduce their appeal to children, Health Canada says.
Yeah, but again, if a child looks around, they're not even going to look at the packaging. They're going to look in it. If they see chocolate or a gummy, they're going to eat it.
Eat it.
You know, I have unfortunately witnessed that, happen.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing about the packaging. So.
Well, I can tell you that there was recently a picture that was shared. I'm trying to think who shared it. It was somebody in my family shared it, or really kind of close to my family that shared it. And it was of my son, who's now in his mid-40s, swigging back with it. He had a bottle of beer in his hand as like a 3-year-old.
Yep. I took pictures of me as a toddler with the little stubby beer bottle and, drinking it. And I mean, And I know kids who have accidentally ingested cannabis. Like, I mean, there was a 6-year-old and she accidentally ingested probably about 30 milligrams. She was fine. She had a really rough night and it was no fun for anybody, but she was okay.
Yeah. And when I look back at, my son getting a hold of a beer bottle, like one time I found him in a closet where the cases were. And, that would be my responsibility. And I look at the cannabis issue as well, that there is a big responsibility that has to come to the parents as well to make sure that these products aren't available. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Legal cannabis product packaging also comes with a health warning and child-resistant packaging to prevent children from being able to open the product, according to the health agency. I mean, they put effort in for sure. The same as a Tylenol or an Advil. There's the child resistant, cases, but they don't always work. Symptoms to watch for if a child has ingested cannabis can include chest pain, rapid heartbeat, nausea, vomiting, slowed and ineffective breathing, and severe anxiety and several others. Anxiety for sure. It comes from they have no idea what's going on. Nausea, vomiting for sure. They move very slow. It's not fun to watch. It's scary.
No. So there you go. Yeah, they say if someone has serious problems, emergency, call 911.
Yep.
If your child is found, if you find your child that has consumed and overconsumed, you need to call somebody, call 911.
Call 911.
Yep.
I'm just cooking this. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I know. It's
You've been there, done that. Next story is coming to us from StratCan. Canadian cannabis producers say the process to vet new products needs an overhaul.
Yeah, I found this interesting. Cannabis producers in Canada say the process to notify Health Canada of new products is creating needless paperwork and a significant backlog. The Notice of New Cannabis Products, which is NNCP, process requires cannabis producers to inform Health Canada of any new products they intend to sell. This notice must be sent to Health Canada at least 60 days before making those products available for sale. Although the process does not officially endorse products, so much for thinking you're consuming government-approved products. You're not. It is intended to give the federal regulator a chance to review the compliance of products prior to reaching consumers.
Hmm. But many in the industry say the process has become unmanageable for Health Canada, with insufficient employees or infrastructure to manage the thousands of new notifications producers often send in a shotgun effort to get ahead of the bureaucratic curve. Health Canada tells StratCan that since the regulatory requirement for the NNCPs first came into force on October 17th, 2019, the regulator has received 86,337 notices of new cannabis products and sent 18,979 requests for more information. I'm sorry, but I have to giggle at that. There have been almost 87,000 new products in the past 4 years,
Yeah.
almost 4 years, that they have come up with for approval. Wow.
That's
Health
a lot,
Canada,
eh?
yeah. Health Canada confirmed that 8 employees are dedicated to administrating
Oh,
this regulatory requirement for 87,000 products. This would mean
wow.
each employee would need to review about a dozen NNCPs per day or maybe per hour.
Yeah, well, Health Canada doesn't seem to hire enough people because they had the same problem when it came to patients' licenses. They didn't have enough
Yeah.
people to do the demand. Because of the erroneous quantity of NNCPs that come into Health Canada on a daily basis, many products appear to go unnoticed for months or even longer, well after the 60-day notice period has passed, and producers have shipped those products off to provincial and or medical markets. Health Canada emphasizes that NNCP process is not an approval process, which means these products can be available to consumers for some time before the federal regulator even notices them. For example, Cindy, lozenges that were available for a year and they didn't realize what was going on.
That's where my mind went too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
go deal with my dog. You can continue on. I'll be right back.
No, okie dokie. The most recent high profile examples of this are the so-called edible or ingestible extracts, products like the lozenges that we were just speaking of, and gummies that have some companies had been, in some cases, selling for well over a year before before finally being told by Health Canada that they had to take them off the shelves for violating the federal 10 milligram THC limit for edibles. So yeah, I mean, we were just speaking of that. Al and I were in a similar issue in 2022. One company was told that their cannabis-infused freezies were not compliant, despite being nearly identical to another product that had been on shelves for about a year prior. Shortly after, the company that made the latter product, the Chill Pops, received notice that they also have to stop selling those products.
Yes, yeah, I remember that. I remember that came out because people were questioning how come theirs got shut down, but the others didn't. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah. Jonathan Wilson, the CEO of Crystal Cure, a cannabis producer in New Brunswick, says his company has had to change product names, often several months after they've been in the market. Although they didn't have to pull the existing products off shelves, they still had to change the product names moving forward, which cost them time and money. Another problem, he says, is that this can mean being forced to change a well-known legacy or black market cultivar name like Runts or Wedding Cake so that they can be compliant with Health Canada's rules around product names.
In the case of Runts, he says that they ultimately changed the name to Red Velvet Runaround to reflect their frustration with the process. But this means they still have to take steps to communicate the original cultivar lineage and name. We'll tell people through other channels what the true name is because part of our story is to give props to the breeder, says Wilson. So now we just have to take one more step to tell that story and stay true to the original names and breeders.
It's good that they want to do that.
Yeah.
Wilson goes on to say he understands why Health Canada needs a process like the NNCP to monitor new products, but he thinks the system needs to be built in a way that proves into account how the industry will always have an incentive to send in numerous iterations of products in advance to save time in getting to market and flooding the system as far as the paperwork end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are only going to be more. We're all unveiling more kinds of products, and products are getting more innovative. This is not going to get any better as far as the number of products Health Canada will need to deal with. It's going to get worse. As an industry, that's good. We want more innovation. So if they can't handle it now, I can't see how they can handle it going forward. If you're going to have to, if you're going to have a mess of some truly non-compliant products on the market, and you're going to have the mess of the truly non-compliant products on the market, and they won't be able to keep up and get them out. I don't know if
Exactly.
removing the process entirely would work, because you'd have things going through that are truly non-compliant. I think cutting down some of the red tape needs to happen. They need to give us, the producers, better assurances that they have reviewed it within 60 days. So we aren't being told months or even years later that we have to take something off the shelves. That's just not acceptable.
Oh, yeah. Benny Pressman, the founder and president of WeedMe, an Ontario-based producer with hundreds of different products on the market, says part of the problem with the process is simply that Health Canada is overwhelmed with submissions. While the process is a 60-day notice, he says his company has been told to change product names or branding after months or even a year of them being available for sale. Oh yeah, I can see them being frustrated. They say
Yes.
that there are so many NNCPs. I think the process should be changed somehow. We don't necessarily send many in, but speaking with others in the industry, as soon as they get an idea, they will send every option and format to Health Canada.
I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Trying to get ahead of it. Yeah.
Oh, like you said, there's 87,000.
87,000.
Now we know why. Yeah.
Yep. He doesn't blame his colleagues who take that approach. It's just a byproduct of how the system is built, and part of why he thinks the regulator needs to revisit the process. One cultivar name they had to change was with a traditional name Goliath, which they ultimately had to rename as Goliath. Oh, I love it. Then to Goliath. As a different LP got an approval under this name, and eventually to Oliath, because Health Canada deemed the original name as a character from the Bible. The Cannabis Act does not allow products to depict a person, character, or animal, whether real or fictional.
Wow.
As I said,
Weedman also had to deal with a name change for Wedding Cake Vape that had been available for around a year before they were told to change the name. Like Wilson of Crystal Clear, he says their goal is paying homage to the original cultivar names. We want to stay true to the original strain name. That's our main priority, and that is why we do this. Although they have never faced any demands to pull products from the shelves, even renaming products costs time and money, and something companies in this space don't always have.
Yeah.
They don't call it an approval process, but
Exactly
it's pretty close, right? Yeah. That's they obviously, if they didn't approve Goliath, then I guess it's
and I guess I can understand their policies for strains, like new strains going forward. But we've all known and loved, say, Jack Hare for as long as we've been in this business, in this industry. As long as we've been consuming, Jack Hare has been around. And that's not, how dare they try to tell us that we can't name or keep this name? So, and that's just my opinion. We've been paying homage, as this gentleman says, to these great people and great growers and great producers for the length of the industry. And it's sad that we can't. Like I said, I guess I can understand if they say going forward, these are the rules, but for anything that's passed, it should be grandfathered in, and we should be able to walk into our legal cannabis stores and say, hey, I need some Jack Hare today, and be able to pick up that cannabis without complication.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it looks like they'll probably have to change that name. Boy, you're noisy today. Eh?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a third reporter in the room. And they're expressing their displeasure at this as well.
That's right. Right, exactly.
Heading over to the next story, it is coming to us from Northern News, and we are going to learn about a Kirkland Lake resident who has been charged with buying cannabis for a minor.
Yeah, a 19-year-old Kirkland Lake resident is facing multiple charges following an investigation by officers from the Kirkland Lake Detachment of the OPP, which is the Provincial Police. At approximately 10 a.m. on May 6, officers investigated the purchase of cannabis by an adult for youth in the town of Kirkland Lake.
By an adult. It's a 19-year-old child. During the investigation, it was determined that the accused was breaching release conditions and probation order. As a result, Michael Manchester was arrested and charged with distributing cannabis to individuals under 18 years of age, failure to comply with undertaking, failure to attend for court, and per undertaking, and failing to comply with a prohibition order.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the accused was
remanded in custody pending the results. Yeah.
And that's it.
So there you go. Someone going. That's it. He's going in and buying cannabis at the store, and for a minor, be like you and me probably in the old days, hoping somebody would buy us a Mickey so we could go to the school dance.
Yeah, and I mean, it might not even be that. He's 19. So I can remember at 19, I had friends ranging from 16 to 22 and older, So I go and I pick up my Friday night, whatever, and I'm going to go hang out at my friend's place. And one of them happens to be 17. All of a sudden you're charged with giving cannabis to a minor, and you can face up to 14 years in jail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I know. Exactly.
And
exactly.
That's scary.
Just so you know, when you bring in the next story, I just accidentally closed it. So you get started, and I'll color commentator along the way while I deal with the dog.
Okie dokie. We will head to that next story now. Coming to us from the City News. And we're asking, are legal psychedelic medicines inevitable? And Al doesn't have the story up, so I'm going to read. In today's Big Story podcast, the past few years have brought about a perfect storm of new knowledge, loosened restrictions, and increased curiosity when it comes to psychoactive medicines like psilocybin mushrooms and LSD. So much so that those who study or observe the field are calling it the psychedelic renaissance. And really, it's the second psychedelic renaissance.
Nice. I'm just going to read it right from your screen there.
Sure.
All right. Yeah. Canada's health landscape is changing, says Erica Dyke. The Canadian research chair in the history of health and social justice and author of Psychedelic Psychiatry, LSD from clinic to campus. There's a whole psychedelic underground that kind of flirts with the law in a variety of ways that has also been promoting the resurgence or reemergence of psychedelics in medicines.
Yeah. Right now in cities like Toronto and Vancouver, you can buy psilocybin in storefront dispensaries. And although that appears to be illegal, not much is being done about it. There was the one that was shut down in, what was it, Ottawa, I think. But the ones in BC have been left alone, and the ones that have popped up in Toronto so far, as I knock on wood, have been left alone. So how do we get to this point, and what's next for psychedelics? And they leave us with this question to think about.
Yeah, they did.
They did. I was hoping for more, but is this what we're supposed to, is this the new norm? And, it is. And coming from somebody who has used modern medicine for 43 years to try and heal, and then I jump in head first to psychedelic medicine, and it's actually doing for me what talk medicine and modern medicine never could do. It's I think it's the new renaissance. I think it's the new way of being.
It obviously is gaining steam really quick. And all over the place, not just in certain places. It's spreading around. So
much faster than cannabis ever did.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's cannabis plowed the road, and Everything
Oh,
else is going to be stuff is going to follow up in behind, and
I have
all
no
these things.
doubt that cannabis did the hard work, but it's done the hard work to allow this beautiful medicine in, and I'm pretty excited.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited. And that means it's break time. It's time for us to go medicate. So Al and I, pardon me, look at me. We'll be right back after a sesh. You are watching Psychedelics and Cannabis, educational news source here on paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. We'll be back in 3.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you think of the number of unique products developed in the fields, kitchens, and labs at Legacy 420, it's hard to think that one stands out above the rest. But tell that to the thousands of people who have tried this amazing breakthrough product.
This is our sacred salve. This is actually our extra strength. It comes in 5 different strengths. It's all natural, all organic. It typically works within 10 to 15 minutes of putting it on. It's good for arthritis, it's good for inflammation, any kind of pain. We're very proud of it.
Sacred salve, so easy to apply, along with soothing relief. To select a strength that's right for you, come in and talk to your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
Pace Radio Network, by patients, for patients, and for those who want to know.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com.
Let's share Pace everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
And we are back from our medication session, and we are live with the Psychedelics and Cannabis educational news here at paceradio.net, cbgtv.com, and on Boxcast, which is really, really cool that we have our own little TV thing going on.
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh yes. Yes.
I wasn't clicking buttons beforehand because.
So what did you sesh with while we were on break?
Oh, I am sitting here. I've got friends who are veterans. I'm a veteran as well. And there is a veteran-owned licensed producer here in Nova Scotia. And they produce something called Master Rockstar, which has turned out to be one of my favorite strains. So
I've got a vape pen with hash rosin in it from
Nice.
Legacy 420. From Legacy 420.
420. Legacy 420 out on York Road, which of course we have a friend who used to think it was Ford Road, but he's now been educated.
And he's been there.
Yes, that's right. We've taken him there. On to the next story. MJ Biz Daily. Washington becomes the third state to create a cannabis interstate commerce law. And for anybody that is traveling down to the States, this is important information.
It is important because, this is an agreement between individual states to allow the cannabis to cross into their borders. Whereas right now, if they don't have that, they wouldn't be able to. And I believe this all happens if the federal government kicks in as part of the legalization thing. But we'll read the story and find out. Washington Governor Jay Inslee signed into law a bill that allows legal market cannabis to be transported across the state laws to other legal MJ markets.
However, the law is contingent on the U.S. government legalizing cannabis on a federal basis or allowing interstate commerce for MJ products themselves. Oregon's governor signed into law a similar interstate commerce bill back in 2019, as did California just last year.
Yeah, that's why I came to that, because we've reported on those other states in the past. The Washington state law mandates the regulators make a written announcement of the policy change to allow interstate commerce. Once federal authorities legalize cannabis or permit interstate commerce, if the U.S. Department of Justice issues an opinion that permits interstate commerce under certain conditions. So they could even do it without federally legalizing cannabis, but allow the interstate commerce of it.
Yeah. If the federal government said, we're not quite ready to go there, but if your states have decided that you're legal, you guys can transfer between each other. Yeah, which would be really cool. The Washington law also instructs regulators to amend state cannabis laws to authorize the sale, delivery, and receipt of cannabis from outside the state.
So there you go. Yeah, that's good. That's getting a preemptive strike on it for when it
getting happens. Themselves ready, because no matter how much they drag their feet in the government, it's inevitable that it will become legal federally. It's just when. And so the fact that the states are saying, you guys are like taking too long and we're going to get ready.
Yeah, there's a state before Congress for the 8th time. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Come on, people, get her done.
Fingers crossed sooner than later. Heading to our next story, we are heading over to High Times.
Yeah.
Colombia Chamber of Representatives passes the cannabis legalization bill.
That's right. On May the 8th, the Colombian Chamber of Representatives passed the cannabis legalization bill. In the six of 8 discussions, the bill was passed with a 98 to 57 vote. In Colombia, legislative acts require 8 debates, and in the most recent discussion, it needed 95 votes to move forward. Rep. Juan Carlos Lozada Vargas, who is also the bill's sponsor, shared the news on Twitter on May the 9th. He says that it was approved with 98 votes for our project of cannabis de usato in the 6th debate. It shows that we are a country that wants to change the failed prohibitionist drug policy to one based on prevention and public health.
The bill would create a regulatory framework for legal cannabis, both for adults as well as for scientific purposes. The purpose of this draft legislative act is to allow the regularization of the use of cannabis by adults, as well as the unification of the current regulations regarding the use of cannabis for scientific use, as long as the established requirements are met. A translated excerpt of the bill text states, the foregoing in order to recognize the guarantee the fundamental rights to equity and the free development of personality, unify the constitutional, legal, jurisprudential references on the matter, and propose a different strategy to combat illegal cannabis trafficking as a tactic to reduce violence in the country. And the bill also supports the creation of public education campaigns and substance abuse programs.
Interesting. Vargas published pieces in March and April where he discussed the history of cannabis effects in Colombia and how proper regulations will save lives. 5 years ago, when we first brought the cannabis discussion to Congress, we were completely certain that in a legislative body with conservative majorities, it was virtually impossible to pass a bill of this nature. However, simultaneously, with an assured defeat, we always had the conviction that one day, much sooner rather than later, our project was going to go ahead. Vargas wrote in March. Well, it looks like that day is come, he says.
In April, the Chamber of Representatives had discussed cannabis on 5 occasions, passing 5 debate shows that this Congress, supported by the will of millions of Colombians who went to the polls, demonstrates that it is ready to take a step towards a new drug policy that abandons the failed, prohibition and opens the field to a policy guided by the guidelines of public health, the prevention of consumption, and the guarantee of citizens' rights. He wrote in April. We are very little away, so very close, to getting started to write a new history in the fight against drugs. And at this point, it is a matter of political will. Every vote is decisive.
It sure is. The bill now moves to the Senate for consideration for the last 2 discussions. If passed, it would be sent to Colombia President Gustavo Petro. In the past, Pedro has confirmed support and interest in ending the war on drugs. Last year, he explained how he will strive to allow Colombian people to live in peace. In November, Pedro met with Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador to discuss geopolitical, commercial, cultural, and development cooperation. In a joint statement, they announced their goal to change, recognizing the failure of the fight against drugs and the vulnerability of our people in the face of this problem. Mexico and Colombia will convene an international conference of Latin American leaders with the objective of redesigning and rethinking drug policy, both presidents said in their statement. Well, way to go, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big steps.
Yes, big steps. Big steps for sure.
I'm getting there. Buttons are getting pushed. We're getting there.
You're getting there.
Our next story is coming to us from Microsoft. Entheogenic psychedelic users exhibit higher levels of psychological well-being and psychospiritual development.
That's right. People who use psychedelic drugs for entheogenic purposes tend to also have heightened spiritual development, according to new research published in the Journal of Psychedelic Studies. The new findings provide insight into how entheogenic drug use is related to spirituality and psychologically well-being. The term entheogenic refers to substances, plants, or practices that can induce altered states of consciousness, spiritual experiences, or mystical insights. The word entheogenic is derived from the Greek word ethos, which means God within, and genesthesia, which means to generate.
Entheogens have been used for centuries by various cultures for religious, shamanic, or healing purposes. Some well-known entheogens include ayahuasca, peyote, psilocybin, mushrooms, and iboga. These substances are often used in traditional ceremonies for rituals where they are believed to facilitate a connection with a higher power. I am interested in this topic for a number of reasons, says study author Kevin St. Anand, and he's an assistant professor at Concordia University of Edmonton and licensed psychologist. I have been heavily influenced by the work of the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, who noticed that many people in his clinical practice were facing feelings of insignificance, depression, and hopelessness, which he believed were related to spiritual problems.
Jung felt that the emergence of these spiritual problems and existential uncertainty was brought about by the decline of belief in and practice of traditional religion. In Jung's view, traditional religious systems have lost the capacity to provide modern individuals with the answers to the ultimate questions we humans face. Instead, Jung argued, we must look within for powers to the spiritual and existential problems to which we are all heirs. Psychedelic drugs have a long tradition of use for spiritual purposes. My belief is that contemporary society should be afforded access to substances which can facilitate our direct and personal encounter with the sacred, unmeditated by the dogmas of the organized religion. I believe that it is imperative that we reincorporate entheogenic spirituality back into contemporary society in a serious and judicious manner.
I have to agree. In the new study, participants were recruited through online communities of drug users and religion and spirituality forums and asked to complete an online survey. In total, 1,216 individuals consented to and began the survey, and 684 participants finished the survey and were included in the analysis. The average age of the sample was 25 to 34 years, and most participants were located in North America. The survey included questions about the frequency and motivations of drug use, or maybe we're talking about the medicines here, the degree to which participants experience problems stemming from drug use, and the degree to which they reflect on and integrate drug use experiences into daily life. The survey also measured spirituality, meditation practice, trait openness, awe, mystical experiences, psychological distress, satisfaction with life, psychological well-being, and psychospiritual development.
The researchers compared entheogenic medicine users with non-authentic drug users and non-drug users to assess differences in spiritual seeking, self-transistence, physiological well-being, and psychospiritual development across these groups. While some individuals who reported using classic psychedelics reported that it was never or almost never motivated by entheogenic intentions, meaning they did not use the substance for spiritual or religious substances, the majority of individuals, about 75%, reported that their use was at least sometimes motivated by entheogenic intentions.
Entheogenic classic psychedelic use was not significantly related to age, financial stability, or gender, but it was weakly positively correlated with education. The study also found that individuals who identified as Buddhist or as spiritual but not religious were more likely to approach their psychedelic use with entheogenic intentions, while those who identify as having no religion or being neither religious nor spiritual were less likely to do so. Individuals who use classic psychedelics with entheogenic intentions tended to use the substances moderately and infrequently. They reported using psychedelics 10 to 19 times in total, with 3 to 4 uses per year in both group and solitary context, using moderate to large doses and always reflecting upon and integrating their experiences into daily life. However, some individuals reported negative impacts on psychosocial functioning due to psychedelic use.
The researchers found that entheogenic psychedelic use was correlated with greater spirituality, meditation, frequency, and openness to experience. It was also corroborated with greater satisfaction with life and psychological well-being. Furthermore, entheogenic psychedelic use was positively greater psychospiritual development. In other words, those who reported using classic psychedelics with energetic intentions were more likely to agree with statements such as, I have the sense I have developed a lot of as a person over time. I feel that my individual life is a part of a greater whole, and the truth I see in other world views leads me to re-examine my current views.
Psychedelic medicines, when used cautiously, deliberately, and with the proper set and setting, can be used to foster a direct and personal relationship with the sacred, holy, or divine, however conceived. Arnold told Psych Post. The personal relationship may facilitate personal and spiritual growth, and in some cases may help to alleviate psychological or emotional issues. it's important that we counter the pervasive narrative that drug use is inherently destructive or abusive. Although drug abuse is, of course, a concern, it is also true that various drugs or medicines can be used in a responsible manner, and some can provide deeply spiritual and life-affirming experiences.
While the study sheds important light on the use of psychedelic drugs for entheogenic purposes, the findings come with some caveats. The sample was self-selected and may not be representative of the general population of psychedelic users or of the broader population. Additionally, the study was cross-sectional in nature, which limits the ability to draw conclusions about the causal relationships. Arnott explains that it is very difficult, if not impossible, to conduct experimental studies of psychedelics outside of a strictly clinical context. As such, this study is cross-sectional and uses survey data. As a result, it is hard to infer causality. We still need to establish a cause and effect relationship between entheogenic psychedelic use and those various beneficial outcomes.
It could be that entheogenic psychedelic use promotes psychological and spiritual development, or it could be that individuals already demonstrating a high degree of psychological and spiritual development choose to use psychedelics with entheogenic intentions, or perhaps some interaction is going on. Despite the limitations of the study and the need for further research to establish causality, the results suggest that entheogenic psychedelic use may be positively related to psychological and spiritual developments. And I keep sticking an extra N in entheogenic, and I can't stop.
Don't worry, I know what you mean. A medical therapeutic context does not appear to be required to gain benefits from psychedelic substances, assuming that they are used carefully and with due diligence, Aman told Psych Post. Of course, these substances are very powerful and can cause harm when used recklessly. We should think of drugs as tools. Take a scalpel, for example. It can be used to maim or even kill, but on the other hand, it can be used to save lives by removing a tumor.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. In the same way, when psychedelics are used carefully and judiciously with a serious spiritual intention, they may be part of spiritual and psychological benefit, even when this use occurs outside of the confines of psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy. The medical community should not have sole legal access to these substances. I can get behind that statement.
That statement. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, and as somebody who's used a lot of these for healing, I mean, I've gone in for healing. I have, and I do have some religious background. I mean, my grandparents were ministers of a Salvation Army church. I went to Sunday school when I was young. I don't consider myself to be religious. I stopped going when I hit, whatever teenage year, and rebelled. And, I haven't really gone back to church since. It's not that I don't have beliefs. I just don't believe I need to be in a church, and I don't believe I need to be that religious. But I got a lot without putting that intention into it. Spirituality showed itself to me, because these medicines have a spirit. They are connected to the earth, and they are connected to life forms. And
well,
yeah. Well, they what?
Yeah, it's I really enjoyed that story.
Yeah.
Article.
It was interesting.
We're
gonna go learn now how to from Health News how to make shroom tea, benefits and risks.
All right. Okay, here we go. Basically, it asks what are magic mushrooms, and as we know, there are more than 200 species of magic mushrooms, which contain psilocybin, affecting thinking, senses, and emotions. For centuries, different cultures have used magic mushrooms for healing rituals. Now, psychedelics are gaining popularity due to their positive outcomes in improving mental health. Let's look at the effects of magic mushrooms on the body.
Physical and mental effects of magic mushrooms. Psilocybin shows its effects upon 15 to 45 minutes of consumption, and results vary based on factors including individual variations, the type of magic mushroom used. The strain is very, very important. So the amount of active ingredient can vary from mushroom to mushroom, and even within a strain, it can vary. The dosage taken Different dosages may take more or less time to show effects, and the method of how you take it, whether the mushrooms have been taken alone or in a combination with other medications or in a lemon tech tea or whatever.
Yeah. After the psilocybin takes effect, the reported effects include mental effects. Magic mushrooms can cause heightened senses, resulting in happy feelings and increased creativity. However, some people experience negative effects, including confusion, disorientation, fear, paranoia, anxiety, and panic attacks. Cindy, I wonder if that has to do with anxiety and stuff, is not expecting what you got.
Yeah, one thing I've learned, in my short career working with all this stuff, is that it doesn't matter if it's mushroom. We're talking about mushrooms in this article, of course, but it doesn't matter what natural medication you're using. The plants, the natural medications, know what they need to do and know what they need to help you fix. So if it goes in there and you're expecting a laughing and high energy, journey, and the mushrooms say, well, no, we're going to go deal with what happened to you when you were 18. There you go. All of a sudden you resist that, and that creates the bad trip or the anxiety. And the best thing I can tell anybody if that happens, go lay down, put something over your eyes, and let the medicine do its work. It'll be a better trip, and when it's over, you will feel very well.
Good. Now, as far as physical effects, magic mushrooms can cause side effects, including increased heart rate, blood pressure, nausea, vomiting, muscle weakness, and urinary incontinence. Incontinence, yeah.
They are a diuretic, so you do have to get up and go pee a lot more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
And some people do purge. And so I've seen that. And I don't know about heart rate or blood pressure, but I find that I breathe very, very deeply. Like you can't help but breathe. You really need that breath for me.
Yeah. It's been like 40 years for me. So of any quantity. So
yeah.
Oh,
they're fantastic though. Risks of using psilocybin-containing mushrooms. While psilocybin-containing mushrooms may have therapeutic benefits, they also come with risks that should be carefully considered. It's important to understand these risks before deciding to use them, and to only do so under the guidance of trained professionals. And here are some risks associated with the psilocybin-containing mushrooms. Addiction.
Right.
I'm sorry, I just had to stop there. They will help you get off stuff. Psilocybin mushrooms have low potential of causing addiction. That's beautiful. Okay, I had to read on because that kind of
that's read off. It sure did.
Yeah.
Feelings of anxiety, paranoia, and confusion. They say high dose consumption of magic mushrooms can cause a bad trip, which can cause adverse outcomes, including fear, paranoia, unpleasant or intense hallucinations.
Yeah. Increased heart rate and blood pressure. It can be especially harmful to people with cardiac diseases. Please be careful. And of course, medical emergencies. Overdosing on magic mushrooms can cause psychosis, seizures, and coma. And just like, honestly, my personal experience, I have yet to hear of anybody the same as cannabis ever going through that.
Yeah, I agree. You see, other negative effects may experience after ingesting mushrooms include the heart rate and blood pressure increase, body temperature increase, muscle weakness, twitching, nausea, vomiting, numbness, dry mouth, sweating, and chills, urinary, as we mentioned before. But there are potential benefits of using psilocybin-containing mushrooms too.
Yeah. Recent studies and growing public interest have sparked the debate over the potential benefits of psilocybin. Limited research, because they refused to look at the non-government research, showed the potential benefits of psilocybin-containing mushrooms in treating mental health diseases such as depression, anxiety, and addiction. Meta-analysis concluded that psilocybin can help manage depression and anxiety in people with life-threatening illnesses.
Yeah. Are mushrooms legal? Depending on where in the world, the use of magic mushrooms may or may not have legal ramifications. In the United States, they're classified as a Schedule I drug and are illegal. But some cities, including Denver, Oakland, California, and Oakland, have decriminalized them. In the UK, they're illegal, classified as a Class A, and the resultant in punishment. And in Australia, Canada, and India, producing, selling, and possessing magic mushrooms are also illegal.
Yeah, it's changing though.
Yeah,
And they like, as we read earlier in a different story, we have psilocybin dispensaries popping up, and they're being left alone so far. Making Shroom Tea. This is a great way to take your mushrooms. Magic mushrooms are eaten fresh, cooked, brewed into tea, and taken as extracts in the form of supplements. Some people prefer consuming shrooms as tea because it allows easier consumption than chewing them. Psilocybin is water soluble, so tea transmits the shroom's effects. Online brands are selling mushroom products such as magic mushroom grow kits, dried magic mushrooms, and magic mushroom tea, all ready to brew.
Wow. If you're interested in making a shroom tea, here's a recipe from a company selling mushroom products. They include dry psilocybin containing mushrooms, water, tea bags, honey, or lemon, whatever is optional, whatever you want to do. And their instructions are?
Yeah, and I'm just going to go back for a second. I would take lemon out of being optional and make sure you put it in there, because that'll help protect your stomach. Because the psilocybin can make your stomach sore. Not upset, but sore. Grind the dry mushrooms into a fine powder with a grinder. Boil enough water to cover the mushrooms. Add the ground mushrooms to the boiling water and leave for 20 minutes. You can add tea bags of your choice to improve the flavor, or just add a bunch of lemon and ginger. And after 20 minutes, strain the tea through a coffee filter to remove the particles, and add some honey to taste if you want, maybe a little bit more lemon. And then, before you actually drink it, these are some things that you should be aware of.
The dosage, the exact doses of the mushroom weighs 10 times more than the dried mushrooms. The potency, it's important to note that the strength of mushroom tea can vary depending on several factors, including the type of mushrooms used and the amount used and how long they have boiled for. And safety only consume shroom tea in a safe and controlled environment under the guidance of a trained professional, they say.
Yeah. In conclusion, while psilocybin containing mushrooms may have therapeutic benefits, they also come with risks that should be carefully considered. Be aware of the illegal production and sale of psilocybin and psilocin. Illegally produced products are not tested and may not be pure.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So it's, be careful, but it can be very, very helpful. And if you're having a bad trip, remember, it's probably just making you face something that you didn't think you were ready to face. So just kind of put that mask on and trust the mushrooms to take you where they need you to go. And make sure your friend stays with you.
All right, we're out of time. Got to close that up.
Okay, so I'm going to say that's our PACE News broadcast from the Legacy420.com news desk for today, May 11th, 2023. And as we close the show, we'd like to say thank you to our sponsors, Legacy420.com, the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. Plus a big thank you to you, our viewers. Catch our next broadcast on Monday with Kelly and Al. And as Al would say, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. We will see you next week, folks. Bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com. CBG TV broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.